And so these people that think I'm just some conspiracy theorist with this, let me find the... Right here, I have printed out, and I will post the links to the statements. These are just a couple. This is all the transactions from the first year of this account. Now, here's what I can tell you. Hunter Biden had about 3 or 4 different account numbers that Devon Archer wired him fucking money to. Now, CNN says, oh, this is false. He didn't receive any money from Rosemont Seneca and Devon Archer. Wrong. Hunter Biden was a third partner. Third partner. It was a 3-way founder. Him, Devon Archer, and Christopher Heinz, who is John Kerry's stepson, founded Rosemont Seneca. It was basically like a hedge fund or an investment fund. Rosemont Seneca funded companies that worked in the labs in Ukraine, like Metabiota, CH2M Hill. By the way, CH2M Hill, I talked about that last week. CH2M Hill. I put a government contract showing last year, July 28th, 2021, where the government was trying to hire someone to go work in these labs and clean them all up and make sure they were compliant before the Ukrainian government started operating out of them without any oversight. And it was basically going to be a continuation of work from the company CH2M. CH2M was bought up by an engineering company. I can't remember the name. I have it pulled up somewhere here. But originally, it was Hill International. And Hill International was owned by Irv Richter. Irv Richter says he doesn't have any ties to Joe Biden or any of his family members. However, Hill International started a subsidiary called Hillstone International. James Biden, Joe Biden's brother, became a vice president of Hillstone International. All right? Hillstone International, starting in 2010, was when it was founded. By the way, James Biden had no construction experience at all. None. No construction experience. Hillstone International did not do one deal until they received a government contract to go build in Iraq. Now, I'm still trying to find the contract. All right? There's a lot of them that were given out at that time. Apparently, Hillstone International, this is stuff I'm still researching, received about $1 billion in revenue over the next couple years from domestic and international federal contracts. When I get that information, I will link it all if that's true, or I'll come back and tell you it's not true. But that's what we're looking at right now. But I do know James Biden, with no construction experience, served on the board, or not the board, he was a vice president and a partner, minority partner, in Hillstone International. Now, moving on. As far as Hunter Biden's concerned, I want to do this because everyone thinks I'm fucking lying. Sorry, Ralph, I didn't mean to cuss. But let's see. Where do I start? All right, we can go down. In 2014, all of the transactions that were given to Hunter Biden. Let's do that. Found it. Here we go. All right. Now, this is on starting in... All right. June 5th, 2014. Now, this is for account number... Just so everyone has the information, so no one thinks I'm lying here. Oh, pull it up here. It is account number, which came out of 2 accounts, by the way. 876-018-483-380. It's a Morgan Stanley account. All right, for in the name of Rosemont Seneca Baha'i, LLC, for a one Devon Archer. On June 5th, 2014, he wired $15,000 to a one Robert Hunter Biden. Account number ending in 0876. Later on that month, On June 13th, he wired $10,000 to Hunter Biden. Account number ending in 0876. June 23rd, he wired $25,000 to Hunter Biden. Same account. July 10th. July 11th, he wired $5,000 to Hunter Biden. July 18th, 2014, same year, he wired another $20,000 to Hunter Biden. July 29th, he wired $20,000 to Hunter Biden. August 6th, he wired, $15,000 to Hunter Biden. Now I'm not even halfway through just that 1 year. Here's the other thing. Like I said, it went to like 3 different accounts. Hunter had 3 different accounts. There was another transaction. There were 2 other transactions that was wired to the Bidens, but it was wired in the name of MFTCG Holdings Biden, is what it says. One was for $150,000, and the other one was for $97,979. The account number is ending in 8378. I looked up MFTCG Holdings. You can't find MFTCG Holdings. The only thing you can find when you type in MFTCG that uses that acronym is from Google Books, and I downloaded the books. It's an Army. Looks like it was published by the Army. And MFTCG Holdings is, I can tell you, it was a program or a group put together that did study like basically on like jet fuel and some defense stuff. But as you go on in the book, it starts talking about how some of these research projects that this group was involved in was also involved in researching stuff for biochemical weapons. Again, I'm still reading all that. It's not confirmed. I'm just telling you where I'm at and why I'm saying all this, all right? That is like the only link I could find for that, MFTCG Holdings. And I'm looking to make a connection, but that would be very weird when you read about what all that has to entail, and that it'd be very, it'd be weird to say the least. Now, here's one that kind of hits home with me. So, Keewaydin Island is in Naples, Florida. Owned by, or was owned by Donahue's last name. He's the one that started Federated, which is a mutual fund company. Now, I don't think he still owns it, but on that island, that's where we used to go to party when I was in high school, right? You drive someone's boat out there, pull it up on the beach, and everyone's there partying. Biden owned a bungalow on it. It's very nice, about 4,000 square feet. It's freaking really nice. When I saw what he paid for it, this was not long ago. I saw what he paid for it. I think it was like, I don't know, $2 million, but they sold it for half of the price. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, why would they ever take a loss on that property? Because if you see where it's at and you see the property, you're like, there's no way they take a loss. It's worth way more than the $2 million. Well, come to find out, Joe's brother, James, who also helped, own part of that house, had a tax lien put on it by the IRS for $590,000. Plus, they had another $74,700 lien by another contractor. Now, this is where it gets a little sketchy. About that same time, so they had to sell that house. But James also secured a mortgage for $900,000 from a Delaware company owned by John Heinz. John Heinz, here, it says, another instance of Biden's friend, okay. John Heinz, who is a car dealer from Delaware, received a $20 million loan from the federal government's Overseas Private Investment Corporation, OPIC, it's an acronym. He earned the loan after Biden introduced him to Ukraine officials because Heinz wanted to expand his dealership in Ukraine. On the loan, it states that all cars would come from Europe, not the United States, to be sold in Ukraine. The American auto dealer or auto industry wouldn't benefit from the loan and business expansion. However, he received taxpayer money to fund his venture. He also owned that business that gave them the loan to cover the tax lien. Last week, I went through some pieces of legislation that was enacted by our government, and you had the Freedom Support Act in 1992, which basically restricted the bio-lab programs and nuclear programs in these former Soviet states, and in return for aid from the United States. But they also opened the door because the U.S. was pushing, the U.S. congressman pushing to expand U.S. business interests in Ukraine. So immediately our congressmen and women are looking at it like, oh, we have a completely untapped market that used to be communist. They're now a newly free market society, and we have a huge opportunity to go into this unregulated area and, take on these profitable ventures. And these are where their friends are going into Ukraine and opening up car dealerships, opening up bio-labs, opening up, whatever, getting on board for these oil companies. By the way, Devon Archer received 2 payments every month from Burisma, which he sat on the board of Burisma with Hunter Biden for $83,333. 2 every month. He got paid a lot of money. As far as the China connection, I can read this. This is where I found this information last night. I'll just read it from here, and then I'm checking in on a lot of it. So, in 2009, Hunter joins forces with Devon Archer and Chris Heinz, who's Kerry's stepson, to form Rosemont Seneca Partners in the partnership with Rosemont Capital. From here, Hunter and Vice President Biden fly to China on Air Force Two, in part because Vice President Biden had U.S. business with the Chinese government. 10 days following the trip, even though both of them asserted that no business occurred, Rosemont Seneca announced a $1.5 billion deal with the Chinese government, also known as the Bank of China. This can be confirmed because I have in these statements payments received and wired to and from the Bank of China. Again, on those statements I have. It says, in 2013, the Bank of China established BHR and placed Hunter Biden on the board of directors, even though he has zero experience in mergers and acquisitions. The BHR begins buying American companies with military connections, nuclear power company, CGN, and Heinz Technology. The Heinz purchase had to be approved by an interagency committee due to its military contracts. The majority of the committee consisted of Obama-Biden administration officials. So, the Obama-Biden administration officials. Now, I'm going to go see what the mergers look like, so I'll confirm that with everyone. But as it stands right now, Obama and Biden administration officials approved the purchase of American companies that hold American military contracts by the Chinese. In 2014, Hunter and his associates launched Rosemont Realty, which can be confirmed in the statements, and made a deal with Chinese government-connected company. They began buying commercial property for China. Again, can all be confirmed. That part can. It says, Joe Biden, the vice president of the United States, enabled Hunter to be the front man for communist China. Now, that's more kind of an opinion, but it makes sense. To buy our companies, to buy military companies, to buy real estate all across the country. It says, for Burisma, you have Kazakhstan, Russia, and Ukraine became part of the money train in 2014 as well. Ukraine natural gas producer Burisma deposited $112,000 into a Rosemont bank account marked CO Devon Archer. Now they paid him $83,000, so it'd be about $166,000 a month. By the way, the following day, Archer visited the White House to meet privately with Vice President Joe Biden. On April 22nd, Archer joined the Burisma board of directors, and on May 12th, Hunter Biden did so as well. Additionally, Senator Mitt Romney advisor Joseph Kofer Black joined the same board. It says, Uh, 3 Americans are executives for the largest natural gas company in Ukraine. They were each paid $1 million per year, $1 million per year, or year, or $83,000 per month. Yes. None had any qualifying experience in the energy sector or previous ties to Ukraine. On April 21st, Vice President Joe Biden visits Kiev, Ukraine, and brings terms for a U.S. agency for international development program to assist the Ukrainian natural gas industry. Archer is appointed to the Burisma board the next day. The founder of Burisma, Zlochevsky, was being investigated in 2014 when Archer and Hunter were put on the board. When Archer and Hunter were put on the board in 2016, Ukrainian authorities seized Zlochevsky's property and he fled the country. Authorities then seized Burisma's gas wells. Hunter used his contacts in Washington to help Zlochevsky with the corruption case. Burisma hired former Obama DOJ lawyer John Barretta. Says Barretta met with prosecutors in September 2016 to get the charges dropped. All subsequent charges were dropped. Also in September, Vice President Biden pressures Ukrainian officials to fire the Burisma prosecutor. Joe Biden later bragged that he had the prosecutor fired by threatening to withhold $1 billion in aid to Ukraine. The vice president's final trip to Ukraine was in January 16, 2017, right before Trump took office. It was also his last foreign trip as vice president. Yes, 4 days before Joe Biden arrived, officials announced the end of investigations into Burisma. Under Biden's direction, the Obama administration poured $3 billion into the country. So what else we have here? All right. Additionally, during Joe Biden's time as vice president, Hunter had a Morgan Stanley account. In April 2014, $142,000 is deposited from Kazakhstan oligarch-controlled Novitas Holdings. In 2014, $1.2 million arrived from an anonymous LLC via a small Swiss bank called BSI S.A. In 2016, BSI was part of an embezzlement and money laundering investigation spanning 10 countries and at least $4.2 billion in irregular transactions. Says in August 2015, this is the one I'm talking about, $150,000 transferred into an account controlled by MFTCG Holdings LLC Biden. It's unclear which Biden is referred to in this transaction. That's the one I said in the beginning that I was trying to, figure out where that MFTCG Holdings comes from. Here's the other thing. And I don't think it mentions it in here. There's a BGW Consulting Corporation Incorp. So it's listed on the statement as BGW Consulting Corp Inc. And I tried every month Devon Archer was wiring money to this consulting group. I looked up that consulting group. The only thing I can find is a LinkedIn profile to the owner. The owner's name is Sergey Ch2M. It's a Russian name. He's got a picture there. It's kind of an older guy. And then he owned a couple other groups. Only one of the other groups, I can't remember, L something. It's another consulting group. That was legitimately listed in Brooklyn, I think it was, in New York. So that was a real corporation. But this BGW Consulting Corp, I couldn't find anything on it. That guy is from Moscow, by the way. So I'm looking into that. Probably won't find anything, especially with all of the Russian stuff shut down. But, it's really interesting. Says the money gets moved so many times. If you could see how much went through Latvia, which is also true, by the way. What was the bank's name? I have it written down here. The Latvian bank. So Devon Archer washed money through, it's called Norvik Banka, also known as PNB Bank. It was established in 1992 after the collapse of the Soviet Union in Latvia. It was also shut down in 2019 by the European Central Bank for money laundering. So these banks that were coming out of Latvia were similar to like the Swiss banks, where you can get away with a lot, except they were far more corrupt. So during a court trial, Devon Archer described a financial relationship with Russian oligarch Yelena Baturina. Archer said Baturina invested over $200 million into various investment funds that involved Archer and Hunter. The pair set up another joint venture, a private-public partnership called M. Bloom in Hawaii, which I checked that out. That's real. Hunter's firm invested $5 million, and the other half came from HSDC. The HSDC money came from a program in Washington, D.C. called the Treasury Department State Small Business Credit Initiative, ran by a longtime Biden aide, Don Graves. Now, I want to go back to the beginning when I talked about Hillstone International. In 2010 to about 2013, I believe, when I go and I start researching on SAM.gov all the contracts during that time for the Department of State, there's a name that comes up as the primary contact if you want to place a bid for this contract. And that was Stephen Graves. I looked up Stephen Graves' name to see if he had any relation to this Don Graves that they just mentioned. Here's what I found. I didn't find any connection, but that same guy, Stephen Graves, served jail time because he was awarding contracts to a Texas construction company, and that Texas construction company got caught for defrauding the government. So he was conspiring with this company and handing out these contracts to people that he knew, basically. I have the link to that as well. So the corruption runs deep. And what's also weird is that everyone around them, around the Bidens, are going to jail for all the shit or being convicted for a lot of this. But none of the Bidens have been convicted. How does that work out? How do you own a hedge fund, or I call it a hedge fund, but let's just say a fund with two other people, all right? Devon Archer, by the way, was a senior campaign advisor for John Kerry in 2004 for his presidential campaign. The other one was Christopher Heinz, John Kerry's stepson. Now, John Kerry swears up and down that his stepson had nothing to do with it. Bullshit. Someone else that worked on your campaign is the only one that got convicted. But your stepson and Hunter Biden didn't? How can you be a three-way equal partner, by the way, and have any idea what's going on investment-wise in that business? That is no freaking way that happens. No way. I'm sorry. If you're a partner in a business, a legitimate partner in a business, you're paying attention to what that business has going on. Especially when it's new, just like that, and dealing with the kind of money that they're dealing with. Furthermore, it says, let me find my place here. Graves served as, so going back to Don Graves, served as counselor to Vice President Biden, his domestic and economic policy director, and his traveling chief of staff. And after Joe Biden left the White House, he appointed Graves to the policy advisory board of the Biden Institute. By the way, Don Graves currently serves in the Biden administration. I believe he is his secretary, or was it Secretary of Commerce or something like that? Something like that. Secretary of Commerce. Why am I thinking of that name? He's the head commerce guy for Joe Biden right now. Says very few cash transactions go directly to Joe Biden, but James, Hunter, and others pay for the trips, parties, and expenses for Joe. Hunter's name also comes up in a case involved a $6 million securities fraud based on bonds issued by an economic development company affiliated with a Native American tribe in South Dakota, according to prosecutors' statements in a federal trial in Manhattan last year. So I actually found those municipal bonds that they bought in Devon Archer's statements. I have to go through and I'll release the name. I believe it was something like It was like a Native American word for it, so I'll get that information. But that's also confirmed that they had transactions in that. Whether or not it was illegal, I don't know. You're innocent until proven guilty, but I'm just saying that they did transact that business. The proceeds were supposed to be used to build up a distribution center and other projects, but instead diverted for the personal use of Jason Galanis. Prosecutors said, describing him as the scheme's ringleader. Mr. Galanis and others sought to use the bonds to advance a strategy that involved buying up financial firms to merge them in a larger one called Burisma Financial Group, in a deal called a roll-up, according to prosecutors. One of Mr. Galanis' alleged co-conspirators in the affair, which unfolded from 2014 to 2016, was Devon Archer, a longtime business partner of Mr. Biden. According to prosecutors, a consultant's report aimed at potential investors listed Mr. Archer as chairman of the combined financial firm and Mr. Biden as its vice chairman, according to trial testimony. At the time, Mr. Biden's father, Joe Biden, was vice president. Says, after trustees for a group of mutual funds affiliated with Burisma expressed concern about the involvement in their business with Mr. Galanis, who had earlier been disciplined by Secretary's regulators, Mr. Archer mentioned Hunter Biden's role. An attorney working for trustees testified during a trial. The attorney said Mr. Archer told his clients that Hunter Biden had joined a Burisma entity earlier in 2015 and wasn't being paid a salary while he worked to drum up business for that firm. Now, why the fuck would you work for anyone that isn't paying you? Unless they owe you something. Hunter Biden was part of this deal, Matthew L. Shorts, Mr. Archer's attorney, said during a 2018 trial. A federal jury in Manhattan convicted Mr. Archer and two others of fraud in June of 2018. Let's see. What else we got here? Going back to, so Beau Biden. This is the last thing, and we'll move on from this, but another instance of Biden's friends benefiting from their connections. A longtime donor, and I already read this one. Where's the one with Beau? Here we go. That same year, Hunter became a lobbyist. This is back in 2001. Okay, here. Long before Burisma, Joe Biden began using his son Hunter for political and financial gain. In 2001, Hunter received large consulting fees from MNBA, the largest credit card company at the time. At this time, Senator Joe Biden voted against the regulatory requirement that credit card companies warn consumers about the perils of making only minimum payments. He was only one of 5 Democrats to vote against the regulation. So Joe Biden voted against a regulation that would force credit card companies to basically inform people in a good way, like, hey, it's not good to just make a minimum payment on your credit card. You want to pay it. That way you're not charged so much interest. Joe Biden said, fuck that. Don't make him do that, because he's earning, a lot of the interest. Like, he wants these credit card companies to make a lot of money because he's tied in with them. And he wants them to earn that interest because the interest is where the credit card companies make their money. People are only making minimum payments. They're going to keep paying interest longer. Says, that same year, Hunter became a lobbyist with Senator Biden's former legal advisor, and his job was to submit targeted earmarks to the senator's office. Oftentimes, these earmarks became part of bills and resulted in millions for pet projects. Eventually, the Senate caught on to this scheme and passed an ethics bill prohibiting senators and their families from earmark profiting. In 2002, Senator Biden moves forward with legislation that makes it easy to sue for asbestos exposure. His son, Beau Biden, late son Beau Biden, was a partner in a Delaware law firm that primarily handled asbestos cases. And fast forward to 2008, Party Gaming hires Hunter Biden as a lobbyist and to manage their issues with the Department of Justice, who recently subpoenaed 12 U.S. banks concerning the company's wire fraud. Hunter Biden is successful in keeping the DOJ away from Party Gaming until his father, Joe Biden, becomes vice president. Hunter then must give up the lobbying position, and a few months later, Party Gaming pled guilty to wire fraud and paid out $300 million. The timing is impeccable on that, right? So I told you what I can confirm. I told you what I'm still looking into. But so far, everything I've looked into has been confirmed. You just got to be able to dig deep enough to find it. All right? This isn't a fucking conspiracy theory. It's not. Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. This isn't a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy because I have the account numbers, all the transactions, everything. It's public info. Which brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk about with the media. And I think I told Jester this the other day. Is it not funny that both sides, Republican, Democrat, we can all agree that the media lies? Fox News lies, CNN lies, they all lie. And they shape a narrative that conforms to their agenda, to push their agenda. Because they're trying to compete and get viewership. They lie. But, and they also use terms like per anonymous sources. You know, what? So some random fucking guy on the street told you something about, some information, you're going to, relay it on national television and tell me it's real? So we already know that they lie. Yet, when I go on Reddit and I get deleted from a thread, and their thread rules say, we only accept links from credible sources. They'll provide a list on what the credible sources are. Guess what they are? Fox News, CNN, all of the major media companies, we all fucking admit they lie to us. And they completely close out the independent sources that have no bias and provide actual links to legitimate documentation. Oh, but they're independent. It's just some little blog. Let me tell you something. I've learned more from comment threads, these, blogs, like small blogs. I've learned more from them than I have the mainstream media. Why? Because they, for whatever reason, actually seem to take the time and do the research. See, all the same people that are complaining about, big pharma, big oil, big fucking media, whatever, they only want to do business with them. They don't want to do business with the small guy. They don't want to see information from the small guy. We need to get over this thing about, Ukraine. Look, you post an article, it says, oh, look at this Russian disinformation, Well, it's not disinformation. I don't care if it's fucking Russia posting the information. It doesn't matter. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. But I will trust the source that has links to PDF files stamped by the United States government than I will a Fox News or a CNN article telling me that per anonymous sources, Biden is planning on doing whatever or Putin's planning on doing whatever. That doesn't mean shit to me. Who's the source? Same thing. If you're going to come on here and you're going to tell me about a conspiracy, you're going to tell me about an idea or whatever it is, I don't care. Tell me where I can go and verify it. That's all I care about. That's all I care about. It needs to be verifiable. It can't just be hearsay, especially in today's world. Like the swimmer in for Penn University winning a national championship, you can verify that motherfucker has a dick. And I'm sorry, Ralph, about cussing on WESM. But you can verify it. How can you verify it? Because you can see it. Obviously, he's not a woman. He's a man. By the way, I think it was John Gale, Eric, said, and I don't know, said that he still dates women. That swimmer? Is that I believe that's true. The swimmer for Penn. that just won the women's national title in swimming? I saw somewhere he still dates women. I believe he does.
That's a scandal in itself right there.
Well, okay. So let me ask you. He freaking walks like a man, talks like a man, fucks like a man, but he's a woman and can go and compete and break records like almost. I think he didn't break like one record, which is held by Katie Ledecky. God forbid she's like one of the best women swimmers of all time. And Linga, no, I didn't.
Oh yeah.
The reason I said that, Linga, is because it came out that he still dates women, and he still has his piece because the girls in the locker room said that they were very uncomfortable around him because he still has all his man parts. So he has his man parts and he dates women. That's why I said that, Linga.
Well, the thing I would probably say about this one trans athlete, the reason why he probably couldn't make it in men's sports is because he sucks. But then he goes to compete in women's sports and he's given the legitimate women there an unfair advantage.
So when I first started doing the podcast, me and Zach had talked about this whole women and trans people competing in sports, and I went and I looked up. So this is at the time that Kerry Richardson. This is before she got, she had just won the Olympic trials. And, before she went through all that stuff. And I looked up, I said, okay, how many high school boys run faster than I think it was at what she ran, 10.7. Now, I think I was around 10.8, maybe, in high school, which, people don't realize, like, that's fast. It's not normal for guys to go out there and run 10.4. The state of Florida has produced probably some of the greatest track people that sprinters, at least, that the United States has had. To win a high school state championship in the state of Florida in the 100, you have to be running well under a 10.4. I think I saw like 18,000 men in high school. And none of them were seniors. These were all juniors and sophomores. Ran faster than Kerry Richardson, who was the fastest woman in the United States. 18,000 high school boys. Look, I'm sorry. I don't care what you think about you. Okay, if you want to go have your sex change operation, that's fine. You do you. I accept it. That's fine. I'm not saying don't. But don't expect to compete in women's sports. And any woman that supports this is I can't fathom why. What is Title IX for? Just fucking rip that shit up and throw it away. And then what are you gonna do when they start? Because and can someone confirm if this whatever it is on scholarship? Because here's how it works: your football team receives full scholarships. They're the only thing that's not included in the scholarship count for Title IX is the football team. Other than that, the men and the women, I believe it equals out as far as how many full scholarships are given out by sports. That's why some schools may not have certain sports, or they'll only have a women's sport instead of the man's sport. Like at MTSU, we have women's soccer, but we don't have men's soccer. All right? It's to make things fair and promote women's sports. What are you going to do when the NCAA starts allowing these trannies, and I say that because that's the only way I know how to really describe them, these trannies, to start playing basketball on these women's basketball teams in college and are fucking slam dunking and alley-ooping on other women, and you have a team, the starting five of trans women, whatever you call them, starting, and they just stole the scholarship opportunities and a potential college education from a actual woman, biological woman. What is the whole fucking point of, like, how disgraceful is it to Title IX to allow this person to compete against women, win a national championship? It's just like saying, well, the men always dominated, So we marched for feminism and all this stuff and got Title IX passed so we could push women's sports and legitimize it, only to allow men come in and freaking dominate the women's sports. It completely goes against all of that. And, you know, like someone mentioned the Rachel Levine or whatever his real name is, winning Women of the Year.
Me and Dude Man Mike in the chat, just discussed that because Twitter shutting down Babylon Bee because they, of course, called Rachel Levine a dude. Because Rachel Levine really is a dude.
This is what bothers me. Look, we're trying to be so inclusive and make everyone happy. If you want to be inclusive, give them their own class. Let them compete against each other. Here's the thing. Go ahead.
I think what we're seeing at its finest is the pussification of America. And even John DeVito is an admin on a Facebook group called the Pussification of America. Hopefully he can get you information on that Facebook group if you're interested in looking that one up.
Well, hold on, I'm replying to this comment on Facebook. Someone asked, Brett Laird asked, why is the DOJ dragging its feet on the Hunter Biden deal? Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think they'll ever do anything. I don't. And it's a shame. Now, going back to Levine or whatever, Caitlyn Jenner won Woman of the Year too, didn't it? Richie says, if this Title IX violation continues, men will start getting grant money and loans from the government. Sorry to women business owners that could have been. Yeah, that's a great observation. Where do you draw the line? Because the way I see it, if you are considering them as enough of a woman to compete physically with women, then you also have to throw them into the same category as a woman when it comes to getting grants and loans for businesses. I mean, all you're doing is, that's like, and look, how is it any different than a fucking white guy identifying as a black guy and getting all of the grants and loans and all of the, programs that have been put in place to try and advance the black community, and they're just giving it to white people? And maybe that happens, and if it does, that's bullshit. Because that's not what it's there for. No matter how you feel about it. It's not there for that. Don't use it as such. This is, we're going down a big like a very bad road here. It frustrates me. I was a former college athlete at a Division I school. Okay. And I know how hard, first of all, my girlfriend was also played tennis at Arkansas and at MTSU here with me. I know how hard they work. They work just as hard as the men do. They take it extremely serious. They compete. They are out there to win, especially in college and at the highest level. It is about winning. It is about competing. Those women, because that's what they are, they're not girls, they're women, they work extremely hard. And it's not fair. It's not